With less than 3 months to go to the Copenhagen climate change negotiations, China has finally indicated that it will be prepared to cut emissions by, quote, a notable margin. Speaking at the UN special meeting of climate change in New York overnight, the Chinese president also pledged to source 15% of his country's energy use from renewables by 2020. The move has increased the pressure on the developed world, particularly the United States, to come to the table in Copenhagen with real targets. But President Obama first has to get his climate bill through Congress. And of course the same is true for Kevin Rudd. And he's used the UN forum to issue an ultimatum to opposition leader Malcolm Turnbull. North American correspondent Michael Brissenden reports from New York.
For those pushing a cause or hoping to influence opinion, there's nothing else like New York in General Assembly week. From intense one-to-one leaders' meetings to multilateral round-table confabs and the less formal cocktail circuit, the lobbying is intense. And the issue of the moment, this week, this year, is clear.
For us, a good outcome means that we would not only have some protection, but that we would be able to survive. The fact is that many of our countries are either losing their water supply, losing their coastal regions, losing their physical infrastructure, and likewise.
Now we've had more than 70 events in New York in the space of a week on climate change, really focusing everybody's attention on this issue.
The big attraction is the roll call of big names. Such a gathering of current and past world leaders has seen this week evolve into a festival of summits.
Getting a decision through which counts.
Even leaders of middle power nations find themselves whisked from one event to another in a whirl of international diplomacy. But the main event, particularly this year, is focused on the big hall inside the concrete monolith on First Avenue.
Climate change links us more directly and dramatically than any other issue. Now is the moment to act in common cause. Failure to reach broad agreement in Copenhagen would be morally inexcusable, economically short-sighted, and politically unwise.
There are more than 100 leaders here for this debate, but all eyes are on the two who can more than all the others really change what the UN Secretary-General described as the fate of future generations.
Dear colleagues, out of a sense of responsibility to its own people and people across the world, China has taken and will continue to take determined and practical steps to tackle this challenge.
For the first time, the Chinese leader Hu Jintao offered some specific targets. China, he said, would boost its forest cover, develop climate-friendly technology and derive 15% of its energy from renewable sources by 2020. But even though they welcomed the rhetoric, those hoping for specifics from the United States were disappointed.
We understand the gravity of the climate threat. We are determined to act, and we will meet our responsibility to future generations.
Unlike the Chinese leader, President Obama is constrained by his domestic democratic processes. The passage of his climate bill through the Congress is still uncertain, and the immediate economic pressures have also put potholes along the road to Copenhagen.
We did not come here to celebrate progress today. We came because there's so much more progress to be made. We came because there's so much more work to be done.
Still, the non-government organisations and the special interest lobby groups here say they're hoping the new American president can deliver. Without it, there will be no global agreement.
Unfortunately, we're in a situation now where there's, 190 countries in this, so, no one country can slow it down or stop it. I don't think that's quite true. Without a strong US, you don't have a strong deal. Does Barack Obama, does the president here invest the political capital and manage to take Congress with him?
Of course, Barack Obama isn't the only leader contemplating his own domestic political landscape from this global forum. Even though the dynamics are a little different, Kevin Rudd faces similar political pressures, and he's using the backdrop of this meeting to once again ratchet up the heat on his political opponents back home.
It's entirely reasonable of us, through the Minister, to say to the opposition who are blocking this in the Senate, tell us what your agreed amendments are to this legislation in sufficient time for this to work when this goes through the Senate the next time.
The Prime Minister says even some other developed nations are starting to grow impatient.
President Sarkozy of France today referred specifically to the possibility of a carbon tax across Europe against parts of the world which were not doing their bit on climate change.
In this environment, politics is played on many levels. While the world's leaders push for concrete resolutions or pragmatic compromises in smokeless rooms, others hope to be noticed on the fringes. And out here, there are some big expectations.
Look, we have 3 months to go, 3.5. We have a lot of will on the part of the Obama administration. The economics of it suggests that it can be done. To save the planet, I know the United States will not let us down.
Michael Brissenden in New York.